what is decorators here? So in decorators, if you want to add some additional support for your classes, or maybe any meta programming you want to add, if you want to add any additional behavior to an existing class, existing method, existing parameters of any function, so these decorators will help you. So we'll also try to see some of the examples where it can be used. But remember, with this particular module, it's not something like a normal developer will be using or creating the decorators always. It is rarely used, and it is used on advanced level. Let's say if you are creating a Angular related application, so there these decorators will help you to give you the additional possible options. If you are using some other advanced frameworks, so there it will be more and more useful. So in this particular module with TypeScript, we'll just try to understand and create some scenarios where you can understand how the decorators will work, and we'll also try to see how these decorators will be useful in advanced frameworks like Angular, so that you can understand and correlate your knowledge why we are using the decorators. And I'll again repeat you, please remember, with decorators, it's not something like that you're writing a program like a normal developer. You need to think, you need to keep your ideology in a different way, like you are attaching your code with any other different framework, or you need to think from a compiler perspective. So it's an advanced functionality where you're going to add the meta programming. So you're going to provide any additional facilities on existing function or existing class. So it's not something like just create an object and object oriented programming where you create an application for a particular scenario. You need to think from a compiler side. You need to think something like an integration side, like you're attaching the TypeScript to any advanced framework. So in that way, we need to correlate this understanding for decorators. We'll see more details. So let's start our new module, decorators. What is class decorator and how we can get a maximum use cases out of it? So there is a scenario, for example, here, like we are creating a bank account class, and the bank is saying that you cannot inherit this. Whatever the class that I am giving you, you have to use it as it is, and you have to create an object out of it and work on that. So you cannot change the behavior, or you cannot change additional things in that particular class. So whatever the class I am giving, that's the final for you. So I'll just quickly lock that particular class so that you cannot furthermore extend it and create a student bank account, then the business bank account. We don't want to allow that. We just want to allow you create a bank account, that class which is provided by us. So let's create a quick class here called bank account, and the bank is saying that we will give you a facility to hold an account number in that. That's it. So I'm just creating a super simple one here for now to make it quick and give more time on understanding decorator. So let's complete this initialization process. Account number. Yeah, here we go. Any issues? No. So we have created a simple class here, and that's it. But the bank is saying that this class you have to use as it is and create the object as per your need, and you should proceed. But you cannot change this particular class. So if this class is provided by the bank, of course we cannot go to the library and change the things. But if it is available here or maybe in library, so of course we can do something like this, right? So I can just say student bank account, which is extending the bank account, and here I'm writing some additional functionality. Additional options, we can say. So here we are adding some additional options, let's say some properties, some methods which are specific for the student bank account. But of course we are getting the basic things from the bank account, and this behavior bank don't want to allow. They don't want to use their facilities, and you're extending it and then creating your own classes for further operations, because of course you're using their basic operations which is being built by them. So they want to allow that. So they just want to seize this, but they want to freeze this particular class so that you cannot change it, or you cannot use it by using an extend like this. So you should use as it is what they have given. That's no problem for them. So what we can do here, so we can add a class decorator here. So I'll just add the red symbol here and mention log class. So I just want to lock this particular class. Okay, that's fine. So I need to create a function for this. So what is exactly a decorator? It is nothing but a simple function which will perform some additional things on top of this particular class. So here you should understand we are talking about a meta program. We are talking about changing the behavior on this particular class. We are not talking about creating a normal object. We are not talking about doing a console of seeing an output of account one dot account number. So these are all the normal things that a programmer do to complete your business functionality, right? A business requirement, creating objects and everything, printing, input, output. But here in this particular decorator, we are trying to do some meta programming. So we are enhancing the functionality for this class. This is very important to understand. And here is the most of the students get confused. So let me just create a quick function here so that I can enhance my class functionality so that I can lock my class. So name of the class, I'm giving here lock class and the parameter here. So here not that you should not get confused by using what is this parameter as a constructor and everything that we'll discuss in a moment. And just for your understanding for now, what we will do, we'll just do a constructor. I'm just consoling this constructor. So what is happening in background here? So when you're adding at the rate lock class here, so this is just executing this function here when this class is getting initialized. That's it. Please make sure this particular class, this particular function will not get execute whenever you are creating an object like this. If you're creating three objects, so don't consider that it will get what are called three times. So this is a class level one. Will get execute only one time, that also to enhance the functionality of this particular class. Perfect. So let's try to quickly console and see. And let me just remove some additional console here so that we'll not get confused. And here instead of this particular constructor to make the things much simpler. So decorator class decorator called. I just want to confirm this is getting called or not. Yes, it is getting called here. That's super perfect. And even if I comment these all objects here, still it will get executed because as we discussed, this is a class level thing. This is improving the functionality of the class. There is nothing from the object perspective here. So this will remove and try to understand what is happening inside this particular constructor here. Let's try to observe what is this parameter constructor and what it is giving in that. So it is giving you the complete constructor that we have written over here. This one. It is giving you this constructor. So of course, when we are adding a class decorator, so it is giving you as an input the complete constructor. It is also giving you the how the behavior of a class works when it creates. So there is nothing to go in much detail about this particular constructor as of now. And let's quickly lock our class. Let's quickly lock our object. So this is JavaScript. So everything will be at the end will get converted to the object kind of thing. So here we need to use some additional functionalities given by the JavaScript. So we need to call object dot freeze, and here we need to mention this constructor. Again, we also want to freeze all the information which is constructor dot prototype. So all the prototype information, what we mean by prototype, all the properties, all the methods inside of our class, that also we want to freeze. So this is a JavaScript option. This is not a TypeScript option. This is a JavaScript specific option. What it will do in the strict mode, it will restrict you to change the properties and the methods of your class, or maybe extending it and everything using this particular freeze option. So right now when the decorator is getting called, so it is locking all of the complete the class and all of its properties and methods. So now, if I just try to go here and do some extend work of class student bank account, extend bank account, this will start complaining me. So let's save our things and see the output. So immediately it started complaining that this constructor is read only something kind of thing. Okay. One interesting thing here, we are not able to see any error inside our TypeScript. So that's a question, my question to you. You can just think on it for a minute. Why we are not getting any error in the TypeScript code that generally we get here, found one error. Yes, so we are not getting this error because this is a JavaScript option. This will get executed directly in the runtime. So this particular class, when it's trying to extend and everything, this bank account, so it can be identified only by the JavaScript in the runtime. Well, like if this object is freezed or not, like this class is allowed to extend and all these functionalities. So that's the reason you are not getting an error over here. So hope it's pretty clear why exactly the class decorator is needed and how we are using it. So let's also try to understand who will create a decorator. Generally, we create an object because we are a developer. We might be creating any project, website, anything. And for a specific use case, we can create an object, call a REST API, and everything will do. But who will create this particular decorator? So generally the library will be provided, or maybe the high level framework like Angular and everything. So there these decorators will be created to enhance the functionalities, to add the meta programming to your classes which are available already, or maybe you're creating to add some additional functionalities on top of that. Of course, you can also add additional multiple decorators on a class, and many more options are available that we are going to see in upcoming lectures. So hope for now it's clear how the class decorator work. Let's talk about one important configuration that you need to on, one important flag called experimental decorators, and why exactly it's needed. So in this particular tsconfig.json file, you must enable this particular experimental decorators in this particular module, and from now onwards to use the decorators functionality, because this is by default not supportable. It is given in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, so it's under the running process. So by default it's not turned on. You have to turn it on using this experimental mode inside your ts config. If you are not doing this, you will get couple of errors. So whenever you're getting the errors regarding this, like decorators are not allowed, maybe not found, whatever it could be, please make sure in your ts config file this particular flag is set to true. Decorator factories. So it's not that difficult. The name it's suggests something like a decorator factory is a very difficult term. It might sound difficult, but it's a super simple one. Only the name is difficult here, we can say. So when we call it decorator factories, it means that it is just giving us a decorator. It is just manufacturing a decorator and giving us. So that's the reason it is saying decorator factories, nothing more than that. So this is our decorator log class. So this decorator, we are not calling here. We are just annotating here. We are just providing an annotation here on this particular bank account class. The @decorator is applicable, is applied. So we are not calling it. We are just applying it here on this particular class. But when you create a decorator factories, you need to call a particular function. You need to ask some particular function to get execute, and that function will return you a decorator which will be kept here. So let's understand by modifying the same example. Make sure at the end you just need a function here that should be presented here. Make sure we are not calling this function like this. We just need this function over here. We don't need the call. That's the final idea. Sounds perfect. So what we can do now, so for this particular log class, I can mention here return, because I want to give as a return a function here. That's the reason I'm writing like this. The same functionality I will write here. What is the constructor is needed and everything. Whatever this object freezing and everything I'm doing here, that will I'll do inside this return anonymous function. Sounds perfect. And here I'll remove, and here I'll call this function. What's happening here, very clearly try to understand. We are calling a function. We are not calling a decorator. That's the first thing we should understand. So we are just trying to call a function, and why we are saying it, we are calling it because there is an opening bracket and the closing bracket for it. So that's it. There is no any concept of decorator here. This is just calling a function. Super simple. Perfectly fine. The function get called here, and this function is returning you the decorator. So when this function is returning your decorator, it means that at the place of this call, what will come? Your decorator will come, and that is this decorator. So hope you understood now. It's exactly the similar like previous. But what's the difference between this and the previous one? Why we are writing in this way? So the core reason of writing in this way, we can pass some parameters here. In previous case, you might have seen we were just adding a decorator here. So we cannot pass any information if we want to pass any additional information for our decorators. So if we are calling it now, so we can pass some extra information here that might be needed inside our decorator and in the meta programming. And that's the reason all the decorators will be written maximum in the using decorator factories, so that we can give some additional inputs, we can receive it here, and we can make use of that while building the meta programming for our class or what is the functionality we are writing. One important change in the naming convention you might have observed till now. So I'll just take a pause for a minute so that you can understand on your own what is the difference in the naming convention that we change suddenly in the decorators. Yes, there is a change. So we call decorators are just a normal function, but they are doing some additional meta programming or maybe annotation work for us. So it's by the end, it's just a function here. But if you see here, we are starting this function using the first letter capital and all the words of this particular function with first letter capital. That generally we follow for the class, then our interfaces and more similar to that. But why suddenly we are using in this case of it's, is it compulsory? No, of course the naming convention is not compulsory here. I can also make it small like this. But making it small here, it will not identify you as a decorator. So all the libraries which are written globally, whatever the convention is followed to write the decorators, that is with this. And that's the reason we are also following the same condition, the convention. But of course, it's not a compulsion. You can go on your own, but it's always better to follow the community guidelines to keep it first letter capital for your decorators, even if it is a function. Let's try to create a simple class decorator example where we can understand class decorator in more detail. So we are going to create a class decorator which is helping us to give some additional information and adding some additional properties to our class. So we have a general class called bank account. That sounds good. And let me just complete its initial structure with whatever we do as constructor and everything. So account number equals to account. That's it. Okay, fine. So we are having some bank account class here. That sounds well. But along with this, we are going to add one additional decorator for class, which is adding some additional properties in this particular class. So let's say I want to give a decorator with the name like bank and standards. So there is one additional decorator factory that I'm trying to call, which we will create shortly. So this decorator will be responsible to add few more additional properties for our class. So, so this is our decorator factory, which is going to return a decorator. As always, we are going to have some constructor here, constructor as a parameter, and here, like we are going to add some additional property for our class on which this particular decorator is added. And before that, let me just say a log here and confirm my constructor is getting executed. Yes, it is getting executed. So what I want to do here, I want to say constructor dot prototype dot created date time equals to new. What exactly we are doing here? We are just adding a new property for our class. So this is equivalent to the syntax. This is equivalent syntax for this. So what is this prototype and everything? So this is more regarding the JavaScript. So if you want to learn more about the JavaScript, that separately can be done where you can understand what is prototype and everything. But for now here, we should not go in much detail of the prototype because it's not the one that we are learning in detail now. So with this prototype, you can just understand on this particular class, on this particular object, you are trying to give a new property and giving some value to it. So the equivalent code also I have written here. Let me just remove this here. And as soon as we are done with this, what we will do, we'll create a variable here called count1 acc1 equals to a new bank account we want to give to one of the customer. And we also need to give some account number that we already know. And here, if you just try to console log acc1.account number, of course, you will get whatever the account number you have given initially. On top of that, if I'm using created date time here, so I'm getting some error here, like the created date time does not exist here. That's of course does not exist here, but our decorator is adding that. So our compiler or maybe the VS Code that we're using, they should be able to know it, right? So we should not get this error. So even though we are getting this error, we'll just try to save our code and try to see the output. Yes, we are getting some output here like August 6th, whatever it could be the current date time. But how we are getting this even though we are having an error here? Because this we have already learned, like even though the JavaScript or the TypeScript having some code, it will create the JavaScript code and it will execute it. So if you want to restrict the TypeScript compilation and the output behavior, and you want to completely stop doing an output emitting when there is at least a single error, so for that a separate configuration is there in the tsconfig file. But for now, let's try to cover up this particular error with some quick fix here. So with quick fix, we are just trying to add an index signature here. So this particular line is making sure and saying that any particular property on this particular class is allowed. This is of course not related to any way with the learning we are doing in this lecture. This is just adding an index signature due to which it allows any property to be called on our class like this. Okay. So this time it is not giving you the error because TypeScript related formalities we have completed and we are getting the appropriate the value for it. So one very interesting thing I would like to highlight here. So account 2, and again I'm for account 2 I'm trying to display the created date time. So for me, everything is giving same because it's happening on the same moment. What I want to distinguish, whatever the created date time is there for account 1 is different than the created date time which is there for account 2 is different. So that's what the difference I want to create. So I'll give you this assignment to you. You can just explore this. So this is same for both the accounts here or the different one or it's a class level one. So you can just revise whatever we have learned so that you can understand this thing. So I'll just take a pause so that you can finalize some conclusion from your end. Hope you got some answers for this. So very first thing with this created date time, I'm not able to distinguish both the output. So what I will do instead of this new date here, I'll just try to say new math. So which, not new math, with the, okay, with the random, we can get the more accurate and immediate results. So let's say if this particular mat.random getting executed 2 times, so of course we'll get two different random numbers. And let's say if it is getting executed only once, then both will be same. So let's try to see the output now. Yes, so both are exactly similar. If you just see it carefully, both are exactly similar. It means there is no difference for object 1 and the object 2. And why there is a difference, you should be knowing this. We have discussed in the last few lectures. Okay, so why it's same for this? Because the execution of this function is happening, execution of this decorator is happening when your class is created, not when your object is created. If you just want to again confirm it, so let's confirm it here. I'm just saying like decorator executed. Okay, so let's see the outcome. Yes, decorator executed here. And you can observe this is prior to all the object creation that we are doing here. And even though if I remove this object creation and everything, still it works. It means this is happening when the in memory this class is getting initialized. So hope you understood how exactly in detail this example is working in a new property we are adding to an existing class by using the bank standards decorator. In the next lecture, we are also going to see one advanced example related to which is being used by the Angular. Execution sequence for your decorators. So we know we can give a multiple decorators for a same class as a class decorators, but let's talk about the execution of that. That will help us to understand which decorator will be called after the which decorator, so that the functionalities we can build like in that way. So let's say this is a class decorator. So very first thing here, try to understand how the execution is happening when this decorator factory is getting called, and then when the actual decorator is getting called. So let me just mention here, this is a class decorator, decorator factory called. Let's copy it, and here let me just mention this is actual decorator called here. Okay, sounds good. Let's see the output. So initially what should happen here? This is we are calling the function, just a function I'll say, that is, or we can say the decorator factory, that is of course a function. So it's just calling a log class function decorator factory. So of course this function should get executed first. And then this decorator will come up over here, and then whenever the execution of this class will happen in memory, so this decorator will also get called. So simply this should get executed first and this is second. Let's see the outcome. So of course we are getting the decorator factory first call, and then the actual decorator is getting called. Sounds good. Let's try to apply a one more quick decorator here. So I'll just create one more decorator here with a name called log, and there are no parameters of course here. And in written, I'll just try to give a decorator. So if I want to give a decorator here, so the syntax for that is you should accept a constructor as a parameter function to it. And while returning, I don't want to do anything. I just want to do some console logging here. So I'll just copy these two consoles here. So this is a log. So this is a log decorator factory called. Yes, that looks good. And again, here when the actual decorator execution will happen, so there I'll say log decorator call. So this is one more new decorator we have created with the name of log, where we are just giving a particular decorator which is just doing a log operation, as also the decorator factory is also doing a log operation. So we want to give it here at the rate log. So we are calling a decorator factory here. So this decorator factory, which will return us a decorator. So now it's interesting to understand in what sequence these console will happen. So let's clearly observe here, this is a log class and then the log decorator, both are given on the bank account class. So I'll just take a pause here so you can just write this code and see what output is coming and just try to figure out why exactly it's coming in that sequence. Hope you have observed the different sequences which are coming. So let's go to the output and see the sequence. So it is calling very first thing log class decorator factory called. Again log decorator factory called. First the log class and then log. So first this is getting called and then this is getting called. So first it is saying log class decorator factory called, and then log decorator factory called. Let me just confirm. Yes. So the order of sequence we have given here, with that the decorator factories are getting called. That's look perfect. So when this decorator factory is called here, so we are getting our actual decorator here. So we are done with the execution of line number 11. Super good. And it is given this the decorator. Please remember here, it is not calling your decorator. When your log class decorator will be called, when the execution of this particular class will happen in memory. Sounds good. After that, it is going to the log decorator factory, and it is calling this particular line and giving you the back. Your decorator, it is not executing it. So both the decorators are ready over here because the decorator factory is given the respective decorators. After that, a strange behavior you might have observed. The firstly, the log decorator is getting called. We are talking about the actual decorators. I'm talking about the decorator, this one. So it is getting called the log decorator factory and then the log class decorator. Sorry, not a factory. It's a log decorator called and then log class decorator called. So the sequence of decorators called is the last one is always get called first and then the next out of it. So you can easily see here it is calling the log and then log class decorator. So don't be much confused about the factors in which way it's getting called and then how, in which way the normal decorators are getting called. It's super simple. So we are using a decorators factories here. That's the reason it might giving you a small trouble here. So quickly let me comment this and let me just write it in a normal way. I don't want to go in much complex way of that decorator factory and everything so that it will be super simple for me. Yeah, we are ready with the first. This I'm just doing so that you can understand the sequence is not that complex of execution. So we are ready with the two decorators. There is no sign of any decorator factory now. Let's forgot about the decorator factories now. So it's my log decorator and it's my log class decorator. So if I am getting the errors here because we are not using the factories, so let's remove this. And let's see now. So simply, this is the first one, this is the second one. So of course, the log decorator will get executed first. We are talking about the decorator and then the log class decorator. So this is what the sequence is followed. Let's see the outcome. Yes. So the last one will be called first and then the upper of that. So in this sequence, it will get called. Let me just roll back it and go to the with factories here. I guess we have just did a console here. Okay, let's figure out the last output. Yes. So I'll request you to you also try this combination and everything with normal decorators, with decorator factors, so that you can better understand it. And once you understood this, it will help you to create the advanced decorators when there is a need of any dependency between two decorators. Let's say we know the decorators being used to add some meta programming or maybe to enhance the functionality of the class. The class decorators are used. So if you're adding some additional functionality inside the log that might be required in log class, so of course the log should be at the bottom because the extra functionalities, the extra metadata that you are adding to the class bank account are needed inside the log class. So that time this sequence matters. So please try with these examples and let's do multiple console and try to play around it to understand it in more detail. Let's try to build a great examples in an angular way a class decorator is used. So the people who are not familiar with the angular, just a quick note to you how exactly the angular functions and what we are trying to do here with class decorator for angular. So for example, let me show you, this is one of the website. This is just a sample website, a template I'm showing you, just a random website from the internet, demo website. So it is giving you a lot of options like a menu. Then it is also on top. It is giving you a few options. Then it is also showing you many data here as a dashboard starts here. So in Angular, what it happens, everything is divided into some components. Let me give you one example here. So if you are able to see these orders, total revenue, customers, and product view. So these four will be treated as four components. Each of these component will have a separate HTML and separate TypeScript code to handle that and get the data from the server or backend, whatever it could be. So this particular box, we can call it as a component and we can work it on separately and completely individually. If anything bad happens, so that will happen with this particular component orders and everything like total revenue, product views, and the customers. These three will be perfectly working fine. So these could be the four different components. from the Angular perspective. So how this class decorator will help in Angular? So decorators plays a very big role in Angular. So it will help you to combine your HTML code with the TypeScript code and many more functionalities on top of that. So here is a sample component file, the TS file from the Angular. So the people who are familiar with the Angular syntax, you can relate your knowledge now. So it is showing you the export class, the component, and whatever it is, you are writing a class component here. And to make it as a component, it is mandatory to add a decorator of component. And we also give some certain input called selector in HTML code where it should be displayed the template URL, which HTML code should be used, and the providers are like which service file to be used. That's not necessary here to understand in more details. And the people who are pretty much new and don't know the Angular, so for you, whatever the understanding I have given you, let's say these four boxes are called four different components, and this one box is representing this. So the HTML code for that will be present here, and the TypeScript code, the getting the data from the server and everything, we can write it completely here. So in this particular one file itself, a component file, we can manage everything, the UI, the backend, the processing, and everything. It is not just one file. If you clearly see, it is attaching its HTML file and the processing file, the scripting here in the TypeScript. So let's try to do the same way inside our application. So in our application here, I'll just go to my HTML code, and we are having some random other details. I'll just remove those and let it be this hello world. I'll also try to create a quick table here, and I'll create a row in that, uh, TD, and one more TD. And in this similar example here, that is orders, total revenue, customers. So the first one I'll say for me it's orders. The second one is total revenue. Let me just copy the second line. So the customers and the product views, customers, product views. Perfect. Let's see our output. Of course, it will not be great. I just want to create a small little example like how the Angular framework is designed, not how to write an Angular code, but how the Angular framework is designed on the compilation level or maybe the framework design level. So let me just quickly add some borders here to make it more good. So I want to add 1 pixel border of solid here of the color black. I hope it's correct. Yeah, correct. And it's better to add inside a style, and a total width of 100% I want to occupy of the screen, and here the width 50% in the first one I want to occupy. Let's confirm. Yeah, it's looking a nice example now. So let's quickly copy the same. It's not needed to do in all. Okay. That's it. We are having almost similar example that we have seen over here. So we have divided into four different things, but it's a simple HTML file. So at this particular place, let's say I want to have a more details about my orders and the complete order related things, the processing of that, the backend processing, the HTML code, everything over here. I want to do it with a component. So what I will do here, so instead of this, I'll just try to write a div, and for this div, I'll give an ID called order div, because this we need to refer inside our TypeScript code. So this is something called a selector, will say, because this is a selector, this will be a selector so that we can identify this area inside our HTML code. So let's go back to the TypeScript file here, and here try to quickly design orders related things, or maybe I'll just change this name to okay, it's orders, right? Let me just confirm what are the fields are given in this example so that better I can assist you. So here the number of orders are there. Okay, number of orders 85, 684, something like that. Okay, no problem. So order. So I'm just trying to create a class called orders here. Number of orders, I'll say here. So how generally we write like it's a number, and I'll just randomly mentioning here itself. I'm not going in the complications of constructor and everything here. This sounds good. Okay. So here I would like to quickly add a decorator. So I'm creating the decorator with the name component. Okay. So we'll go in a way that we have created other decorators first, then we'll enhance it so that you can better understand it. How we generally do it, we return a function which is accepting a constructor. Yeah, let me just say hi here because I just want to confirm the execution is going very smooth. Okay. So now here, we want to play around it and with this particular HTML code, and we want to attach this particular HTML area with our TypeScript code of order here. So what I'll try to do here in this particular decorator, we need to get the data of our HTML selector, and then we need to add some HTML code over here. So for that, I'll say very first thing I need to mention here my HTML code. Let's say orders will be displayed here. And this is an HTML code. So I'm just trying to add some HTML code here. Okay. And after that, one more parameter I would like to give where it should be displayed, the selector. So the selector I'll give you this order div. Let me come back here. And here I would like to give the selector. Okay, so right now it's a super simple one. To this particular decorator factory, we are giving two parameters. One is my HTML code and second is the order div. Super perfect. Let's receive it here. So we are having a HTML code, which is of type string here. And we are also having a selector, which is of type string again. Let's see everything working smooth. Yes. Try to now inside this particular decorator, instead of this console log and all, now we will try in more detail to get the HTML element of that order div here. So we'll write document dot get element by id, and which element we want to get, this particular order div, which is stored here inside a selector. Okay, so and here inside this particular HTML element, now this HTML element is representing you this order div. So whatever you want to mention inside this div, you can just do it there with dot inner HTML. So here if I just say dot inner HTML equals to whatever the HTML code that I have received in my parameter, this HTML code I'm adding here. And here it started suddenly showing some issue like so what we can do here, because it can be a null here, so I'll just add a exclamatory here, which is saying that it will not be a null and there will be always compulsory value, just a TypeScript related thing we are providing. So we should not be confusing with this. So let's see the outcome now. Yes, it is displaying. Orders will be displayed here, and it's super simple. From our HTML code, we have created a component called decorator. The what is the HTML code we are providing from here and where we want to put it inside our HTML code, and including the scripting we are able to handle right from our TypeScript code. And this logic, this particular behavior is being used inside the Angular. So this is the core functionality of Angular. So let's also try to play around it more. Let's say, for example, what is the number of orders are there that you want to display inside the HTML? Because as I told you, your HTML front-end code, your scripting, all are at one place. So why not to use this information and present a very well information like this? How many orders you are having? 684, something like that. So in our example, what I can do, I'll just quickly say here, let data equals to constructor. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm just trying to create a new object of this particular order. Again, not to go in much detail about this because this is all the advanced framework related integration level thing. This is just an example I'm showing you how the Angular framework is being created in background. So with this particular data, I'm getting a new object for the class order. So what I can do here, I can get the data like this particular number of orders now. So what I can say log data dot, let's see in console we are getting it. No. Yeah, the reason for that is the data type we have mentioned here is function, but we need to make it any here. So let me just rerun the code. It's still the same. Set properties of undefined number of orders. Is anything? Yes, it should be a new here. This time it should be working. Yes, we are getting a 684. It means inside my decorator functionality, I'm getting an access to a brand new object called order. So how we can integrate this information inside my HTML code? So what I can do here, instead of this long string, I'll say orders equals to, in an angular way, I'm trying to display. So I'm mentioning two curly brackets open, two curly bracket close, and I'm giving my variable name inside my HTML code. So you can see now how it is simple from an HTML to insert a value inside it. So let's see how to do that in the decorator, this functionality. So it is a super simple, normal thing I'll use. So what I'll do, this particular HTML code equals to code dot replace, and let's confirm replace either replace its own value or will it return something. I guess it returns something. Yes, it returns something. So we can also do the replace here itself. Okay, we'll do it here only better because we can do for multiple one. Replace dot, so what I want to replace, I want to replace all the places where this thing is mentioned with data dot number of order. That's super perfect. And this updated code, HTML code, we are giving it as an inner HTML for div. So let's see how it works now. And it's working very great. So we are getting orders equals to 683. So now not only one particular variable, we can also play around the multiple variables. Let's say I'll say next order. I would just want to display the number of the next order. So next order number is, this is 684, right? So I'll say 685. So 685 is the next order. I want to display it on the screen to my user. So it's very simple. I can just enhance my HTML code, and to just make it more readable now, I'll just use some different string notations here. So this is my first. Let me just get it down on the next. Okay. So here, just a passage I like to print, and I would like to say like here, the next order number I would like to display here, and next order. Okay, and I just need to update here. So it's a order, next order. Let's see. I guess something we are missing here. Anyone can guess what we are missing? So it is replacing the number of order previous one. Is all the code is compiled well? Yes, but still we are able to see the previous one, the orders and the, let's try to add some random thing here so that we can confirm it is getting printed. Yes, it is getting printed. Okay, fine. We are missing with this closing bracket here, the closing one. There should be something missing here. of course, we'll have these issues because we are not using it like a normal HTML code. We are using inside a string, right? So I was missing with this particular closing one here. It should be working now. Yes, it's working. And again, I guess something extra I'm giving here with this. Yeah. That's great. Now we are also able to see the next order 685 and everything I can just able to manage from here itself. So you can understand from a developer how it will be simple. And these decorators like component and everything will be given you by the framework. So in our Angular case, this decorator is being given you from the Angular framework. You should not be worried about this. You should be only worried about how you can make this functionality more better by just working around these options. Now, this data I'm hard coding. This data you can get it from a REST API because you're in a scripting language. You can just write a function. You can call Ajax or many more functionalities here, right? So this is the way using Angular we create great applications and a stunning applications like this. So hope you understood in this particular example how the Angular works in background with the great decorators. Let's understand the property decorator. So when it will be useful, so in a class we'll be having set of properties and set of methods, and then we'll create a class. But on those particular properties, let's say in the bank account class there are properties called account number, balance. So on these properties, if you want to add additional metadata meta programming or maybe any additional annotations to enhance its functionality of that particular property, so you can add a property decorator. So let's try to understand with a quick example by creating a bank account class here that we have done many times earlier. So we have generally something called account name, which is of type string. So let's say I'm providing a name of the here. So right now it's not a correct way to provide because we have that constructor and everything. Just for the sake of understanding, let me just provide NA here and let's say it or let it be initially for now. I'll just keep it like this. So everything is okay. And if I just create an object out of it and account one new bank account. So I don't need to do anything in parameter because there is no constructor. It's a added inbuilt with empty parameters. And let me just log this account one dot account name. And along with that, I would also like to display the length of it. Length of it. So it should be 5. Yes, we are getting it 5. We have some previously written HTML code, something. I'll just remove that so that no further confusions will be created to keep it simple. Let's keep validating. Everything is good. Yes, this is also we are getting it. What I want to do now in this particular TypeScript code, if I add additional spaces here at the starting, it should not be allowed, right? If a user is giving additional spaces at the start, additional spaces at the end, it is not a good behavior to accept that. So user might give that, but when you're assigning it to a property, you should not be accepting that, or maybe even if user is giving, you have to trim it. So if I see my output now, this is getting stored as it is in my class, object, whatever it could be, and it is also taking that additional spaces. Then that's the reason we are getting the length 13 now. It should not be done in this way. So what I will do, I'll write some additional property decorator on top of this particular property, which will ensure whenever any assignment is happening, whenever we are adding any value name to this particular property, there will be some validation will be happening and some manipulation on that particular string will happen and a trimming can performed. So let's see how it works. So let me add a decorator here called trim. So I'm calling a decorator factory, something called trim that we are going to write. So we'll make it T capital. Okay, so this decorator factory, we need to create a function. So we'll go with the traditional way that we have learned till now. Okay, very first thing here, when we were saying return function, so generally we used to give constructor previously and it's a function here. This is what we used to give when we have written the class decorator, because we were the input for that decorator was a class. So the input for this function decorator was a constructor. But in this case, we are just bothered about this particular property. So the input for this particular decorator will be this particular property. So only the property related informations will come up here. It is not something like that, only this property name, something like that will come, but along with that, in which scope it is present, all those things will come. So there are two inputs for this. One is target. So I'll just give any target here, the data type for now, and the key. I'll mention the key is of type string here. Okay, what exactly this target and this key? It's a very simple. So I'm writing an decorator here trim. So when I'm trying to perform some operation on this particular account name, I'll be needing this account name is present inside this class object that is called as target. So whenever you're performing any execution over here inside your decorator, you should be knowing your particular property is inside which particular object. So that will help you to do some additional options, right? That's the reason this target will be helpful. So in this case, this target is equal to the object in which your property is present. So if this is account name, so this particular target will be your account object. Second is key. So key represent how to get this particular property out of your object, out of your target. So if I want to get the details about this account name, I need to write a log target of key. So with this, I can get, so target is my object. Inside my object, I want to get this key. This key means this particular property. So I'll be getting this value here. So let's quickly console it and see the outcome. We are getting it undefined here. That's a different reason why we are getting an undefined here that we will see shortly. Super perfect. So next functionality we are going to build here, that is let. We want to take the value of this target of key inside this variable. So what is this value? What is the value you are assigning, or maybe inside this particular property will be there that will come inside a value. Super correct. So next, what we'll try to do, we'll try to create two methods. One is getter and the setter, because when there is a property like this, so either you are going to assign some value or you are going to read some value out of it. So that's the reason how the assignment should happen and how the reading should happen. How this getter and setter for this particular method we are writing inside our decorator. So let's quickly write it let, and with that setter itself we can remove these additional trims. If you remember, we have written getter and setter to perform some additional validation for a particular property. So it's a similar kind of thing here. So I'm creating a let getter. So it is not accepting any input. I'm just creating an arrow function here to make it super simple, and it is returning this value. So what is the values present inside this property? I'm going to return it. And for setter, it accepts input. What is the input? The input will be next value. For example, I'm setting some value to it, right? So this particular next will be my next value, and it will be of type compulsorily string. Okay, so what we will do here, we'll say the value, this value, this value will be equal to the next value dot trim. So what you are doing now, you're not assigning your next value directly to the current value of this property. You are trimming it and then applying it. Super perfect. So now if I just try to see the output here, my output is as it is line number 30 we are on. So that's a JavaScript related line number, so let's ignore it. But still the trimming is not happening here. We have written the getter, we have written the setter here, but still it's not happening for us. What could be the reason for this? I'll just take a pause here and I'll request just do a quick research on it, why our setter functionality is not working even though we are setting a new value to our property. What we are missing, let's try to do a quick R&D and try to solve this problem. I'll just take a quick pause. Super perfect. So the reason here is that this is your decorator. So this is just an execution is happening. What you have done, You have just took a control of your value. Super perfect. This is not an actual getter. This is just a simple function. You have written it, but you are not using it anyway. This is one more function that you have written, but you are not using it. Okay, you have to attach, you have to map these getter and the setter to your property. How to do that? So in JavaScript, they have provided you some couple of options to do that. So that's object dot define property. Okay, so for which property you want to define? So if you are saying about the property, you also need to mention about the target, right? So target means in which side, which particular object. So I want to define the property for this target inside that in this particular key. So you're defining inside a particular object for which particular property. So in this case, for this account name, inside this particular target in for this particular key. What do you want to do? So you want to give this getter. So you are saying that for get, use my newly created function called getter. For set, use my newly created setter, which is doing the trimming and then assigning the value. So don't use the default one, use my setter. After that, let's couple of other options we need to add that will not go in much detail about it, which is not needed as of now. Fine. So we are done. So we have done the mapping of our newly created setter and the getter for this particular property. So whenever this assignment is happening, it is not going to directly go inside your property. It will go using a setter that you have defined. So inside this setter, it is saying that let's apply a trim and then assign it. So now try to see the outcome. It's super perfect. So it's giving you the exact name of the person here and the length is exactly 5. So with that, we are confirming the trimming is happening very correctly. With this, we have also learned one more thing. For applying this particular trimming and everything, it is not important you should be creating a object and everything. Whenever this assignment is happening, it will execute. So let's try to create one more assignment over here. So account one dot account name. I'll just try to change the account name over here. So in this case, there are how many 6 letters are present here. So when I'm doing this assignment, it looks like a normal assignment that we have generally done. A equal to some value, B equal to some value. It is similar to that. But we have some special decorator called trim. So due to this, a new setter and the getter applied for this. So it will get assigned using a setter and it will apply some trimming. So let's try to add some spaces at the start, some spaces at the end. So it should give us exactly the name and the length should be 16. So if this is happening, it means we can say the newly set setter is working for us. Super perfect. So with this, we learned now how many times you're assigning some value, your newly created setter is getting called. Let's also confirm the getter is getting called. So we are getting this value here and here, right? 2 times we are getting the value of account name property. Only 2 times? Yes, 2 times. This is one assignment and this is 2 times get we are using. It means this getter should be used. So let's get a call. I'm just consoling it. So we should get this 2 times. Yes, we are getting it 2 times. So in this way, we have seen how we can set a property decorator and add additional functionalities. Now you can create any number of classes or anything. You just need to add this decorator if you want your property should behave in this way and they should have any additional spaces. So along with that, you can set up many other decorators. There are many inbuilt decorators are present uh, with different frameworks. There are the decorators like read only and many more. So hope you understood how the property decorator works. What is method decorator and how it is used? So method decorator is generally used to add some additional capabilities like and meta programming to your existing function so that you can enhance its functionality, which might be a common functionality and you don't want to rewrite it always. So let's say we have an example here. We have written something, a class called bank account, and in this particular bank account we have a functionality called debit. And let's just say here debit successful. But while calling this particular functionality account one dot debit, so it's happening directly here. It's whenever we are calling that particular functionality. Of course, it's a normal behavior, but we want to take some additional confirmation from a user. Would you like to really do this or don't know? Based upon the user input, we want to execute this functionality. So what we need to write a manual confirmation like is okay. And here I'll just try to take a confirmation from a user screen like are you sure to debit. Okay, and as soon as I get the output out of it, then it will just say is okay or not based upon the user confirmation. Then we'll decide to execute or don't do anything. So it's super simple. If the user is saying yes, then only the debit will happen, otherwise it will not. So okay, it's asking like, are you sure you want to debit? I'm saying okay. So the debit is successful. So it's giving okay here and the true, whatever it could be, and the debit is happening for us. Let's say this time cancel. So this time no debit is happening. Let's do it again. Yes. So this is a very common functionality. So writing it every time manually here doesn't make sense. So why can't we have a decorator for this additional capability of our function by using a meta programming? And this is what the method decorator. So we'll just comment out this functionality for now, which we have written manually, and we'll try to add a method decorator called confirmation or the user confirmation. This will be more specific. So we want to take a user confirmation here, and let's quickly write a function like we have done. So this is a decorator factory we are writing and written a function, a target to it. So what is this target? In which particular object we are performing an execution for this method. So this will be of type any. What is key? In this case, it will be name of your function and one more additional parameter we will be having here, that is, one second, let me just repair these errors. Yeah, one more additional parameter we'll be having here, that is descriptor. So descriptor, and the data type for that is available in JavaScript, that is property descriptor. So here is our new decorator available that we are returning here, and just let's say a log r, because I just want to confirm the execution happening of this decorator very correctly. We are getting some error here. What is that? Expected. Okay. And here also we are having, yeah, we need to call our decorator factory because it's not a decorator, it's a decorator factory. And this is our decorator. So let's say we are getting a high. Yes, I confirm, it means the execution is happening. Let's try working in detail for this. Very first thing, what I will do, I'll just take a backup copy of my original function, because it is something like that. We want to perform execution of our original function, or you don't want to execute anything. So we just need to write some if else statement. So there our original definition of our function we might lost. Where is the original function? Like whatever the function is getting executed, the actual one that is present inside this descriptor. So what I'll do here, I'll say let original function equals to descriptor dot value. So here I'm keeping a backup copy of my original function. And here I would like to say the descriptor dot value. What is this descriptor value dot value? The actual function that should get executed. So now onwards, this function will not get executed. What function will be executed? This function will get executed, because you are setting here the descriptor dot value. It means this will be your function. This is not your function from now onwards. If you want to confirm that, what you can do? Uh, okay, let me just comment this for now, and let's call account one dot debit. So what will happen? The decorator. Then what's happening here in decorator? Let's say console decorator called, and after that you are expecting your function will also get called. That's super correct. That will also get executed here. First the decorator called and your then function is getting called. But when I'm saying you, when you're writing descriptor dot value, it means this particular function. So you are not executing this function now. From now onwards, this is your function. So let's see in this case, your actual function get executed or it is getting overridden by this particular descriptor dot value. So in this case, we should just get decorator called. Yes, very correct. We are getting only decorator called and we're trying to call the debit. It is saying there is no function, something like that, because we are incomplete with this thing till now. So, or incomplete we can say, or let me just write the functionality for this function. There are argument, the REST API argument, the REST params I'm giving here because we are not sure what could be all the parameters for our function. And let me just do one opening and closing bracket here. And let me just say I'm a function from decorator. So instead of this, this function will execute now because this is updating your complete function. Let's confirm now. Yes. So it is not calling the original one. If you want to call the original one, you need to write some mechanism to call this particular original function. So here is your original function. You need to write some mechanism here to call this. And we are going to do that in a while. I just want to confirm you how you can change complete function itself by using your decorator. So what we are going to do here, we are going to take a user confirmation is okay, confirm, like, are you sure to debit? And instead of asking, are you sure to debit, what we will do, we will just ask, are you sure? Because we can use the same user confirmation decorator for credit as well or any other functionalities, right? So it's a common good decorator. So why not to make it more narrow and specific to one? So just say, are you sure? Okay, we'll get some user confirmation here. So we'll say is okay or false. If it is okay, what you need to do, you need to call the original function. That is this one. So where is your original function now? So we have kept a backup copy of our original function. So let's play around it. Original function dot apply. So if you remember, we have seen something called as bind. So this is also similar to that. So when you're calling a function by using apply or bind, you need to firstly pass inside which particular target environment it should get executed. So for us, the target environment is this for now, just the sake of understanding for now. Or maybe you can also give this target, which is already available with you. Okay, and then you need to pass all the parameters for that function. So already we have taken a copy of it. So let's use of args. So what exactly you are doing here? So you are giving all the parameters. Right now there are zero parameters. So any function can have one parameter, can two, three. So we are just using some REST parameters here because we are trying to build a general functionality. So we don't need to bother about it. Just think of it like you're calling your original function by giving their appropriate parameters. Super perfect. Of course, it will give you some return value. So let's store it somewhere and return it back result. And when there is nothing happening, like the user is saying no. So let's say you are just returning a null value. Okay. So let's see the outcome now. And I'm just removing all this console extra so that will be more specific. Okay, I'll just keep this one for now. So let's refresh it. It will ask us, are you sure? So what is happening here? This is our decorator. So when you're calling it dot debit, the firstly your decorator will get execute and decorator is going here. This is your object account one. This is your key debit function name. This is descriptor, your complete function here. And here you are rewriting your function code here and you're taking a user confirmation. You have also took a backup copy of your function. If the user is saying yes, then only you're calling your function or you're saying, no, I don't want to do anything. So let's make it okay. So your actual functionality of debit is getting executed and just let's say no, cancel this time. So it is not getting executed. So this is what is being written inside the libraries and the Angular framework, something kind of thing. You should don't be worried about this. This is we have just written advanced functionality here to understand. What you just need to bother it about it, make use of the decorator like this. So if you just want to give additional user confirmation for any function, from now onwards, you just need to add user confirmation decorator. So let's create one more function here called credit, and let's try to reuse this. And it's a credit successful operation, and this time I would like to ask for credit as well. So we are adding this decorator, and instead of debit, let's say we want to do the credit now, and this time it will be useful for us because we are just using are you sure. So okay, it is asking us are you sure, we said yes, credit is successful. When we are saying no, the credit functionality is not happening. So this is how with just a single line you can import many more things on top of your function by using method decorator. Let's see how we can pass parameters for our method decorator. And here is the use of the decorator functions will be helpful because we can pass some parameters for your decorators using decorator factories. So let's say one requirement we are having, we are using this user confirmation for debit and credits, all is perfect, super. And let's say if we are calling for credit, right? But we want this particular message should be very specific for credit only. It is asking, are you just sure? So we don't want to limit this. We want to make it very much specific for credit. Are you sure you want to credit from your account like this? And when we are performing the debit, we want to do that. But in this case, we can't do this because it's a common message we are giving, and we are utilizing our method decorator at many places. So why can't we pass some parameter here with this one? Because we are using the method decorator factories where it takes a parameter because it's just at last a function. So let's try to pass some parameter here like are you sure to debit from your account? Question mark. And the same thing I'll do inside the credit one. Are you sure you want to perform credit from your account or to your account? Immediately it started complaining me because our decorator factory doesn't accept any value here. So let's accept this message, which is of type string here, and make use of that in providing the confirmation message on the screen. Okay, so let's see the outcome now. Refresh the screen. So immediately it started giving, are you sure you want to credit to your account? Yes, we want to credit. Are you sure you want to credit to your account? No, it cancelled. Let's confirm for the debit one as well instead of credit. Are you sure you want to debit from your account? Okay. And same the cancel one. So this is how we can make use of the decorator factories to customize and give some parameters for our decorators.